Hello guys, this is Jerry speaking. Welcome to Book Reviews, episode number 18, and today we choose Street Gang episode chapter 17. So let's read it now and see what we got, shall we? See what we got. Okay, we're gonna be finished off with 18 after this is over tomorrow. I'm not sure when exactly, but we'll see what happens. Okay. Anyway, chapter 17. John Stone wasn't a man's man. He had a few cigar-chomping, sad instance. Wow. And while he wasn't entirely a ladies' man, if the ladies did find him attractive, worthy, and appealing, many succumbed to his charms. Wow. It burned early adored him. It burned the man who inside him was less martyred. Stone was in the times cold and punished to kill Spinny. Wow. Who's referred to the read over his lines on the morning of taping rather than commit them in memory overnight. Stone attributed this practice, to laziness and professionalism, spinning to a desire to approach material fresh, spinning to my nature said native, and always eager to avoid confident, not like Big Bird himself, was often victimized by Stone. When Stone would strike, Spade would respond by walking into circles, wanted and public. Excuse me. Stone superiors, we pronounce it, with one notable exception, found them at times to be a great unpleasant defendant muting supervisor paid. He mostly felt the same way about them. He was kind of about carrying grudge, ridiculing those who dared challenge his authority, refusing to suffer fools gladly. Wow. They could be lovable, tender, brightful, funny, tireless, resourceful, imaginative, and instead of rounding out in the edges of an emotionally complex and moody band, without whom there will be not have been Sesame Street as we know it. Stone's supervision of the show defined his professional life and defined his legacy. That Sesame Street formation during his adult scene boom blossomed in the period from his 10th anniversary in 1979 to its 20th in 1989 can be attributed to Stone's dedication to his content and to his modern spirit. Talent came with it and went to the 10-year span, but Stone had the handpicked number 2 Dolly singer. Wow. Provided with charisma, the good taste, the adventuresome reach, and the good humor that not only kept the show alive but thrilling. Wow. As a parent, Stone knew when to say no. He always kept a number 2 pencil perch in his beard while at work in the studio. If a script met with his disapproval, he would extract the pencil and then slash away in the pages, rewriting in the fly rather than allowing the substance tagline called the button to fall flat. Wow. Next page. As a parent, Stone always also knew when to say yes, allowing the puppeteers to experiment, personalize, and embellish, convolutionally when they knew they were on a roll. He created a studio environment when people were allowed to be their shells, and almost unlike Obismere, that was welcomed by celebrity guests who came by one episode and then wished they could stay for another. That the Sesame Street set have tragically bad, completely informal is largely attributable to a man whose preferred style of dress included a fishing vest with pockets and vets everywhere. Wow. As a parent to his daughters, Polly and Kate, Stone was nothing like his own father. A kinshiply cold obstetrician and medical family member of Yale who shipped his two sons off to the summer of the farm in New Hampshire. There was no denying Dr. Stone's brilliance. Either in the operating room or when he was to retreat his study to solve mathematical problems, or to play classical music on the piano was so lame. My grandfather was not a man who loved children, said Kate Lucas, John's youngest daughter. He was very much emphatic, like quiet in the house. Though he was wealthy, money was never spoken in the household, where appearances and proper manners mattered. John was musical and athletic as a child, but he was also dyslexic. He struggled automatically, and his father sent him to boarding school at 13, in the hopes that he would shape him up. And he once shared a crushing story from those prep school days with daughter Kate. My grandfather only went to one of the dad's football games, and only one day Dad rushed the kicker and blocked a punt with his chest. His soft stars got knocked over, but the first thing that entered his mind was that his father was there to see it. But what my grandfather has gone out to say and make it business call to miss it. The disappointment of that stayed with my dad into his entire life. Wow. Family lore that is John's father that was pleased with his son and was admitted to Williams College, Massachusetts, but displeased with his choice of major. Few undergraduates during Stone's 4 years at Williams declared music and concentration. One day, years later, when Stone was completion of his final years of graduation school of Yale drama, his father was delivering twins across town in New Haven. At nurse's bundle is the first infant to emerge from the womb. Dr. Stone mentioned the college's colleagues in surgery that he was feeling pleasant. He stepped out into the hallway and fell dead from a massive coronary. My dad has a competent childhood, Kate said. He adored his mother. She adored him. But he clearly knew his father preferred his brother over him. A lot of times that pattern of rejection that could continue into the next generation. Wow. But my father was the complete opposite of his father in terms of that way. He loved his children. Polly and I were so lucky growing up to have a dad who was so wise. You can pick up the phone and tell him any problem in the world. He would listen and give you wonderful advice. Over and over, he told us that it was his world which kids need to hear. He told us what we could do, whatever we wanted to do in the world, and encouraged us to follow our dreams. Without the slightest time regiment, she said Sesame Street was his first door. The vegetable into the which he poured so much into of his essence. She speaks on his show with way a younger sister looks up in the older sibling. She believes that what her father often said about Sesame Street is true. That Kate and Polly have as much to do with the success of the show as anyone else. There was Sesame Street's in-house, on-demand focus, and just by being kids, they contributed in, contributed into brilliant ideas for skits and sketches. In one instance, a Triumph Holiday special for 1978, Christmas Eve on Sesame Street. Okay. The program was a true-note, tasteful at times, heart-tugging, massive of hours leading up to Christmas, a day without something spoiled by Oscars rather sour person, something about Santa Claus. Wow. In the matter of arrangement, spiteful old children, tormented younger ones, touching new non-believers who pick up the faithful who don't deserve to have their fantastic Saturday. Also tons Big Bird. Wow. Excuse me. Oh, come on, really? Oh, that wasn't deserved as a tissue. Oh well. Anyway. Rising jobs at Santa to deliver press in the buildings and may have rooftop vents but not chimneys. Stones and his co-writer Joe Bailey wrote script pages that provided a plausible diploma for an urban child acted out by words from Lester's Big Bird, who goes missing on Christmas Eve. Like a preschool child who wanders off in the department store, Big Bird's obvious the worry he was causing the state by stationing himself at the rooftop of Gloria and Susan's brownstone. As the snowstorm grows intensely, Big Bird remains in this frigid pose on the lookout for Santa. Panic sets in the which words or hurts the street that Big Bird is gone. That's when Maria, behaving as a frantic adult, might pull Oscar out of this trash can by the scruff of this little green neck. What transpires in this starting respiring that sounds sparkling lifelike. Excuse me. What are you doing, Maria? Again, scribbly, yank, Oscar, yeah. Maria said, hope you're satisfied. You have to start all the stuff about Santa and Tiny Chimneys, and you're upset Big Bird so much he's gone, and yeah. Oscar said, well, I didn't know he'd do anything dumb like that. I was only teasing him. I felt worried for Maria. Next page. Maria said, okay, sorry about that. I gotta get a tissue myself. Okay, thank you. Anyway, Maria said, teasing him? Tell him that Santa isn't going to be bringing a present by giving because he can't get down with a Tiny Chimney. Now you call that teasing? Oscar said, well, he come on back, he'll part home in Pigeon. Besides, what's the big deal? He lived outside all the time anyway. It was sad. Maria said, slapping the fingers of the right hand on the palm of the left. Now look here, Oscar. The nest is somewhere something different. That's his home. He got an electric blanket there. He got heating pads. And he's around all the people he loves. But here it is, Christmas Eve, and he's out there somewhere in the big city. And it kept snowing, and it's getting colder, and he could be in serious trouble unless we find him. On the verge of tears. So what should we going to do about it? And Officer Slam, regretfully and suddenly resolved, goes out in search of Big Bird. After getting this compressly from Maria, the one adult on Sesame Street who gives out the good that she gets. Before he trucks off, his feet stricken out at the bottom of the can. Arthur can't resist on one little tweak. Come on, hurry up, Skinny. He comes out to Maria. It's that moment, the script remains us to the grouch and the ornament around the knees cares for the most. Scripts allow for another powerful reserve moment after Big Bird decides he's had enough of waiting in the cold. He comes downstairs to warm up for the minute. At Gordon and Susan's place, Gordon has been trying to soothe Patty and a scared child who has been playing with Big Bird and reported him missing. She runs to Big Bird's side and enters the foyer, giggling with the goyish relief. That's when the question begins. Surgery's parents. Susan concerned. Big Bird, you alright? Big Bird said, I'm alright, except for my frozen giblets. Big Bird said, Angela said, Big Bird, what have you been? Big Bird said, well, I have to wait up the roof, see if I can see Santa Claus. And then I fall asleep. Brr. It's getting cold, so I decided to come down, warm up. So I'm going right back up. Gordon formally went with finger pointed. Oh no, you're not. You're just going to come here and that's dial out. That's what you're gonna do. Going all but pushes Big Bird into the apartment where a gift is delivered from Santa are laid out under the tree, decorated with baubles, utensils, and candy canes. Not only did Santa arrive, he even left some for Sesame the Cookie Monster. Wow. The Christmas special features a second storyline, ball affection an area from Ho Henry. Ernie is trading his rubber ducky to give a cigar box for his old buddy Bert's paperclip collection. Bert. Turd trading him, trading in his paper clips to Mr. Hooper from the pink soap dish for Ernie's use as a bathtub perch for Ducky. Mr. Hooper recognized Scarface and devoted friendship when he sees it. Returns the duck and the paperclip collection, wrapping it as a gift to his good customers, Bert and Ernie, who get sayings, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas." To watch that scene now, provided home video, is to be reminded how remarkably gifted were Jim Henson and Frank Oz, two real life colleagues and friends, as playing puppetry odd couple. Wow. It is a tribute to the archery that Ernie and Bert seem so emotionally violent, cinematic, to the viewer. Even though somewhere within the radical folds of the brain, we know they are explanations and short sleeves, two arts and crabs projects, doorways to wiggle, as Stone used to say. Any such evidence looking for the reason the test is in her tear ducts would do well to expect Christmas Eve on Sesame Street into a video player and replay Bernard's reduction of the Christmas classic. It will remain the viewer that love and friendship have been forces in the universe that transcend time and space. Wow. Okay. The relationship that exists between Henson and Oz, brothers, creative collaborators, and interlocking souls, was downright inevitable, we pronounce it. They share something holly and fragile, eliminated by laughter and held tethered by trust. God bless them, but John Stone, a more brutal, brought out their best. If there was one project to put in the time capsule instead of the space, to let the merchants know what Sesame Street was like, it would be that Christmas special, said Sonia Marzano. Joe has a way of touching the exact pulse. The exact concerns of the child who was not afraid. Dolly Singer, who produced the special, said it was John's baby from the beginning. If you want to see this soul, watch Christmas Eve on Sesame Street. Yeah, maybe agree with that, and I agree with a special Sesame Street Christmas bedtime, but that's just me. Stone's now adult children see upset that their children in Vermont and New York reflected in the special. When my sister and I was little, we would write a little letter to Santa after dinner on Christmas Eve. Said school teacher Polly, and editor desired by reflection. We would leave the letters with cookies and a glass of scotch by the fireplace. One year I asked him what his favorite poem was. My sister asked him how he got down the skinny little chimney, so the idea for Big Bird's Debona in the special cane for Kate was teeny at the time. The next morning came Dad's response, or should I say Santa's. Next page. Response in the letter of for each of us. To me, he wrote, "Rosa red, violet blue, I bet chew, I got flu." Yeah. To Kate, he wrote, Will I suck in my gut and I put my toes and woof, down I go, getting up in this definite manner. Wow. Paul Friedenberg was Children's Television Workshop's executive vice president in 1978, where Christmas Eve on Sesame Street was produced. One of his more baffling decisions, which includes selling off interest in cable television that would later be valued in the hundreds of millions, to be signed a deal with that same year for a special Sesame Street Christmas, which I said in the beginning, in the video, part of the video. But anyway, with independent television producer Bob Banner, whose roots in the Barry television went back in the Gary Moore and Dinah Shore shows in the 1950s. I love these two producers. Yeah, thanks. Well, okay. Had a track record to record with Henson and the Muppets. From this day producing the primetime Jimmy Dean show, CBS bought the idea, even though they were one of the works with PBS. When executive producer Singer questioned the wisdom of completing specials, Friendship said if it would produce the two shows of competing specials. Friedenberg said if we produce the two shows, maybe one will be making on the air. Said Singer. Can you imagine the naturally if a complete lack of understanding of the show? Yeah. Friedenberg's low-budget network special featured a bizarre lineup of creepy B-list talent, including host Leslie Uggams, which is called off, and nearly exotic entertainers Ethel Martin, which is amazing, and Amia Coco. All three have been early guest stars in the Muppet Show before top name talent began flocking to the syndicated show after its first season. Add to the cereal mix to the Christmas special with guest appearance by Harry Fonda and the breakout boy sprung from the Jackson 5, Michael Jackson himself, which is great, but overall, nowadays, they don't listen to Michael Jackson anymore, which is so a shame, you know? I mean, he had a cameo in the video, per se. That's just me, of course, but even though it was great and all, but that's just me. It was painfully observed how it was sad, built around the shaky story that line that cast Oscar as Sesame Street's resident Scrooge. Yeah, I agree. I don't disagree. I don't agree with that at all, but that's just a good thing for me to see it in 2011. This is good. It was an hour trim to Trinical and about as far as afield from the educational objectives of Sesame Street as one could imagine. Wow. Should be noted here that honest appraisal of Jim Henson's network television work with the Muppets. Most account for the good number of unworthy, unfunny, unbecoming, unwatchable appearances of with a special Sesame Street Christmas was one. It was sad. I love it. I don't hate it per se. I would love it. I would recommend watching it. But anyway, on balance, the good far right waves was bad to bad. As much as what Henson brought to television approached greatness, but his taste was not appreciable. He made plenty of television that the Muppet Show, Balancey, critics, Starter would have booed off the stage, and quite rightfully, and I disagree on that. By November 1979, after Sesame Street's broadcasting for a full decade, some 9 million American children under the age of 6 were watching it every day. Wow. A study that had been reported the previous year indicated that 90% of children in low income inner city households regularly tune in. Overall, 4 in 5 households with children under 6 saw the show over the 6-week period. Around the New York Times, Fred M. Etchinger told Sesame Street's Adventures in sight in Skyers upon the 10th birthday. On its way to the top, Sesame Street was bought by the Soviet Union as a tool of American culture imperialism, and by the British Broadcasting Corporations as an instrument of the American circumvent. What do you pronounce it? It was accused by American post-colonial critics of harmful side effects, ranging from shortening children's attention span from causing feathering fits. That Sesame Street continued to be discussed so seriously with emerging and decision that after 10 years it was really mattered. And surviving 10 years of television, a medium that in which shows often don't last 10 weeks, was a silent achievement. And by 1979, the first viewers of Sesame Street have already reached popularity. Bert and Ernie, on the other hand, didn't age a bit, or change out of their white turtleneck or slip polo very often. They just continued to kneel and nag, talk to each other in bed, and feed their obligations. While the rest of America spent the next 10 years looking at war, perhaps in vain, Sesame Street would spend the 80s turning outward. Wow. Expanding the young viewers' world. It's the second decade on television. The real life experience of writing staff, cast, and crew providing a foundation for its series. To look back in the period, it was to appreciate the profound effort that life cycle events have its own on the show, off stage and on. There's a birth and death, and love and loss, courtship and community, pleasure and pain, all from a little show where aims and at first was simply to test television's ability to simulate the brain. Now it would also touch the heart, but not its original engagement. But as each year passed, Sesame Street would become a much emotional pathway for children, as an initial year one, and just in time for this this was the period when the children of baby boomers were riding in the back of Krister revelations with Yellow Baby on board, Warren's slapping the windows, Big Bird plush toys were along with the ride, built in nationally, but by decade's end, the family would need to make a room for a squeaky voice Muppet monster, which insult laugh would be making a mess made of the driver, grip the steering wheel. Wow. A bizarre report crackled across the police radio airwaves in Nashville in the early hours of Friday, September 19th, 1980. Dispatch was issuing, and next page. Alert test was an African American male, and has been spotted riding in the Green Hills area in the city. Black, naked, except for the t-shirt, and I felt worried for this guy. It was Norman Calloway, feeling from a full restaurant, but seemingly unaware of it, or trial of property damage he gray bar Ray. This is sad. Calloway had randomly ransacked several homes. One stop, he destroyed a family collection of fine crystal. And another, he broke a light bulb in his bare hand. In the third, he snatched a book bag belonging to the first grader. Along the way, he hurled the rock through the car window, shattering it and smashing it through headlights. It's Cowboy stirs and against when police found him in the garage. He was yelling and screaming, Officer James D. Murphy. We couldn't talk to him. He said he was in the CEI and called President Jimmy Carter. Police learned that was before the rampage. Callaway, who was a business and woman, a 27-year-old marketing director in the Villager Commanders and the Osprey Road. During an appearance in the Nashville Performing Arts Center the previous week, Callaway has become intimate and with Mary Sargaman, personally single and married white woman he met on the road had become a harassable and dating sport with Callaway. But this expected was tragedy different. Callaway is snapped. Where was I? Police discovered the Sageman has been battered about the skull and Tarshwell was an iron rod and Emory SF care unit of Veteran University Hospital where he sent to treated with head injuries and broken ribs. She's remained hospitalized for 2 months. The National Banner report quoted police and stated what that the being was so served. The island road was destroyed. Callaway, we recall thinking of the night he was arrested and he said he had no memory of being Sageman. It was sad. He had made that to a put Saya Ag finally in Nashville. Following the assault, but was allowed to return to New York under a doctor's supervision. Knowing Nashville Attorney Roy Lionel Barrett took on Callaway's case. September 81, and the year after Callaway was charged with initial assault, he had to plead guilty by reason of insanity. The short industry casual Tom Straver said that an agreement had been reached between the state and Barrett to bypass Greg jury indictment and turn to evidence over the criminal court. Wow. The deal allowed the court to retain jurisdiction over Callaway's productive treatment. If a jury found him not guilty by the insanity plea, doctors called him by the state and have already determined that Callaway was insane at the time of the attack of the rampage on personal property. During the vesting year, Callaway had received outpatient psychiatric care in New York, had returned to work on Sesame Street. Executive producer Dolly Singer believed that with the proper treatment and the promise that Callaway would constantly take his daily dosage of Legalism, the actor could rejoin the cast. Wow. For some reason, the incident in Tennessee was largely ignored by the mainstream press in New York. And the supermarket tabloids, I don't know why, but the story never gained any legs, said Children's Social Workshop executive David B. Britt. It wasn't so much as administrative crisis for Children's Social Workshop as it was a crisis for the show. Wow, it was sad. And understandable awareness showed Callaway upon his return to the set, especially among those who have direct detected Bowery long before the assault in Nashville. He always had an interesting gleam in his eye, said publicist Bob Hatch. The ability to rise, I'm not going to say the H word in the video per se, was not far beneath the surface. I never saw it in action, but I knew it was there, and he got away with it with as much he is did because he was so, not gonna say the D word, talented. Wow. The promises of early years of Sesame Street diminished in the 1980s when they took Northern zest away, and this became heavily suggested and put on a great deal of weight. Wow. Singer said they learned that he was doing cocaine. At the same time, he was talking his maintenance drugs. Ugh. At the time, Northern became totally unrelatable. He could remember his lines at all, and we had to do a dozen takes for every scene we was in. I've called his psychiatrist an 8 number of times in the appetite to tell him what was going on with his patient, but the doctor was totally dismissive. The doctor felt he was protecting Northern, but I faked stupidity. Yeah, it was sad. Shortly after the appealing of the 56th annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade on November 25th, 1982, Will Lee became ill and admitted to Lenox Hill Hospital. The 74-year-old Lee, not wanting to miss the parade, had braved the cold to take the estimated perch in the throat. Lee has been on a fine shape that production season. He had taped a good number of setbacks in November and had been regulating everyone with tales from the stage and the neat for this neat this discharge to after the 1930s, staring at Colward flat that was right should have been commended. He liked to discuss his days in Yiddish fear with the Children's Television Workshop research director Dr. Louis Bernstein. Wow. A gentleman and a gentleman. Well, because Bernstein wore a Margot atop of the skull. Lee was well on his Yiddish. The researcher, next page. Okay. What was that? Did have the heart to interrupt him, or disclose that he was understood very little of the language. Lee had played a range of roles in his career, but he had never found the level of popular success that stage that he had on television, studio playing Mr. Hooper. At times, he would have be put off when he was fellow actors was extraordinarily wonder beyond the script. His acting trade and his respect for writers made it difficult for him to venture trade beyond what was there on the page. To that said, to the end, he was on the run lines with his castmates, helping them exterminate the words that he was been so thoughtfully crafted from them and to interrupt, way to pronounce it. When cast and crew learned the hospitalization, people drew their breath. How could they tape the episodes of Sesame Street about Mr. Hooper? The mystery of the neighbor, since his first somewhat instrumental appearance in the episode one, Mr. Hooper had become many things, many young children. Wow. A sonorous papa, paw, pop, Gramps, and Granddaddy. Not to forget, this guy, we pronounce it. Grandperry, Nanu, pause, yi, and zayi, what we call it. But anyway, I don't speak Jewish. I'm so Jew, because I don't have. I'm a Christian man. I'm sorry if you watch Mr. Hooper or in heaven, but that's just me. Mr. Hooper's a guy that upon as far as of the generation gap. His hat lens glasses slipping down his nose. That is an established carries no name with all the small of no small thick spans. The quirky Valley star with his signature solid foundation was a projection of Mr. Hooper's personality onto the and validation social intonation. Even children knew you couldn't walk away from the local 7-Eleven with a newspaper under your arm and a Slurpee on your one hand, promising that the cashier I'll be back with the paper tomorrow. But your credit was to give with Mr. Hooper because not only did he know you, but he knew your mother. Will Lee played Mr. Hooper with such clarity and novicelessness, the way you pronounce it. He made adults suspend their sense of disbelief. Yes, excuse me. And I understand that. When celebrity guests would arrive at the Sesame Street set for the taping, they often would walk into Hooper's store and look around, wishing they could buy something to bring home. Even people paid to engage and make believe wanted to hold on in the illustration. That's cool enough. I spilled over the book. Sorry. And when I found the shelves lined with the pops, they left the only thing in the stock my disappointment. Bob McGrath went to visit Lee in the hospital and was stunned to see how gravely ill that his castmate would have become. He was not pacing water, McGrath said, and I told him that he was mine the doctors was and interrogated. I would make sure Sesame Street would be made possible by the letters P upon his return by his set. Well, that might have been his last line after he had to bed. Will Lee is a funny and smart as Sesame Street himself. Lee suffered a fatal heart attack on December 7th, 1982 at the Upper East Side Hospital. Memorial service held 8 days later at the New York Shakespeare Festival Theater on Elizabeth Street. He left behind a sister, Sophie, with in Florida. Wow. Lee's sudden passing was Arthur's toward the end of the production season, with no small issue with anyone associated with the show. In the months that followed, another season that was being written. The production team with research staff was resolved that the part of Mr. Hooper would not be recast. Instead, the character would, and by examination, the actor would play him would be memorized in the show and the episode that would take put in a tricky business explaining death in the preschool audience. It was left by the head writer Norman Stiles to find an age-appropriate means to accommodate the finality of death without causing children undue fear of confusion. The result, the truly memorial episode, one of the show's best. Wow. To assist him in dealing with such a sensitive topic, research director Bernstein convinced a advisory group of physiologists and religious leaders to provide guidance. It's what we call a charism bath. Bernstein explained. We brought in the experts to allow the writer to soak in experience. With performance, we pronounce it. Experience, we call it. Anyway, we are in research bringing the people to provide their information when then the absolute liars take over and they illustrate what they heard. We end up with an entire episode that dealt with the life cycle about the naturalness and birth and death. The cytovirus virus who advised us and said that we needed to be mindful that children, like adults, needed to find a sense of culture, even if thought they don't know what culture means. We try to make a show about beginnings and endings, leading to a segment that what said Mr. Hooper has reached to an end point, and I agree with that. That definitely was a part of his life, was a lesson to need to impart, but we have a dissect religious matters as best we could. But we decided that all religions dealt in human memory, to one degree or another. We decided to state that while Mr. Hooper was not here anymore, we always have that part of him that lives in the heart, and we have our love, and that was always stay. And that same time, we wanted to establish them that sometimes for adults and children experiencing your feelings, and it's hard to do so. Stars went to work, crafting a script that allowed Roscoe Orman as father figure Gorm to lead up the way. It was the first of several brilliant choices. The second was to enlist Richard Hunt, who as Forgetful Jones kicked off this first scene at a whooping, whoring, but for the reasons he solidly can't remember. But questioning him, Gorm was not only helps Forgetful recall what factors next page. Anyway, led with Job's dominant mood, but established the show's creation that talking about emotions that not only be helpful, but it was even entertaining. Let's see if we can figure this out, Gordon says. Let's think real hard about what was happening when you were feeling happy. Forgetful says the sun was shining, a breeze was blowing, and then the trees started swaying, sort of like dancing back and forth, and then my heart started to beat. And the time was the trees dancing, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-ba-boom. What do you call it? But anyway. Boom, boom, ba-boom, boom. Okay. I started yelling, well, alright, because was happy. Can you imagine me forgiving some things that make me happy? Okay. Later, Big Bird forgets something that made him sad. The scene unfolds in the courtroom as Gordon, Susan, Bob, Maria, Louis, David, Olivia are enjoying coffee, cafe style. Okay. Anyway. Moving on. Hey, I got a great idea, Big Bird says to the audience. Why don't we watch the grown-ups for a while? Something somewhat is dismay. Big Bird sees that what they're doing is talking. While I help you are going to do something more interesting, Big Bird says. That's okay, I might be able to listen to you guys excited, but what I'm going to do is listen to you or say, and from what I hear, guess what you're talking about. No, I'll be bouncing on one leg. Okay. The adults resumed discussing Leandro. Wow. A son born to the Williams family, whom everyone seems to know. The baby, who may or may not resemble his father, will be coming with his parents to Sesame Street later in the day. Wow. Susan turns to Big Bird and says, "You should be able to guess by now. I'm all the clues together. We were talking about the baby. We said, what's his name? We said he would look like, and we said that he and his mother were coming over here today." Wow. Big Bird says, right, you're talking about Miss Williams and her baby named Leandro, and she's coming here today. What are you going to talk about now? Well, how about politics? David asks. Oh God. Hey, Big Bird says, not even standing on one leg that can make you interesting. He's got a point, Maria says. The 7 hours of tradition of coming to life. That sometimes kids can figure out what adults are saying, even when they seem uninterested. After 2 brief inserts return to the courtyard, when adults are now discussing a female political candidate. Wow, it's just sad. David assures us that she is against big spending, big business, and the filing. She says when she gets into office, there will be enough money for government social programs and the space program. Bob says, "It sounds great. It sounds great. What's her name?" "Alice in Wonderland," Gordon answers. Oh my God, it was so. Yeah, Alice in Wonderland, for one, it's not a politician, and 2, it was an amazing Lewis Carroll story. But that's just me. Big Bird arrives with surprises, and from here we need to experiment every word. Big Bird said, "Hey, it's time for your presents. I got drawn the pictures of all my grown-up friends on Sesame Street. I'm going to give them to you as I'm being an artist when I grow up." And I agree with that. I love being an artist. I drew some pictures of stuff that I wanted. You know, like Big Bird was Carol Spain was a drawer. Carol Spain, excuse me, is a drawer. And he done it before as he draw it. But as for Street Gang, yeah, that book is what I'm currently doing book reviews on. Yeah, I'll just show you that I want to do book reviews. But this drawing thing, yeah. I've done a lot of drawing before as a kid, but as for this, tech geek and filmmaking, that's my first love. That's just me. But anyway, the drawings are passed out and emerged. And last but not least, ta-da! Show everyone a drawing Mr. Hooper in this half glass and the bow tie. Wow. Well, I can't wait to see it. Awkward silence and glance are all around. Say, where is he? I want to give it to him. I know, he's in the store. Bob says, "Big Bird, he's not in there." Big Bird says, "Then where is he?" Maria just standing up and looking around and then rising to talk directly to Big Bird. "Big Bird, don't you remember he told you? Mr. Hooper died. He's dead." Big Bird said, "Oh yeah, I remember." "Well, I'll give it to him when he comes back." Oh God. Just no. And Susan will be like, "Big Bird, Mr. Hooper's not coming back." And Big Bird's like, "Why not?" And Susan, standing now, stroking Big Bird's feathers, saying, "Big Bird, when people die, they don't come back." Exactly. And that's why I'm just standing here for it, Big Bird, storyfully saying, "Ever?" And Susan's like, "No, never." And I agree with Susan. And Big Bird says, "Well, why not?" We said, "Well, Big Bird, they're dead. They can't come back." Big Bird says, trying to period. And I agree with, I felt worried for Big Bird at this point. "Well, he's gonna come back. Who's gonna take care of the store? Who's gonna make my Bursty milkshake and tell me stories?" And David's like, "Big Bird, I'm gonna take care of the store. Mr. Hooper, he left it for me. And I'll make you milkshakes, and we'll all tell you stories, and we'll make sure you're okay. Yeah, I agree. Susan's like, sure, we'll look after you, and I agree with that. Big Bird, driven away with his own head, down. Say, well, it won't be the same, and Big Bird choked with emotion, saying, you're right, Big Bird, it will never be the same without, and around here without him. But you know something? You can all be very happy with him, the chance to be with him, and to know him, and to love him a lot when he was here. Olivia was like, and Big Bird, we still have our memories of him. Big Bird says, well, yeah, memories, how I drew this picture. Next page. Yeah, next page. Anyway. From memory, and we can remember him as much as we want to, but I don't like it. On the strokes of tears, it's made me sad. And David will be like, we all feel sad, Big Bird. And I agree with David. Oh, yeah, the late Northern Hawk Callaway, yeah. Big Bird says, asking, once again, he's never coming back. And, David said never, and Olivia said no. And Big Bird's a little angry. I don't understand. You know, everything was just fine. Why does it have to be this way? Give me one good reason. Okay. I don't know what you're doing, Big Bird, but that's just difficult what's happening next with the thing. Back in 2014, I was doing the Hawks for Robin Williams, which has never been happening anymore. That's just a big thing. And that's why it turned out to be National Stay Alive Day. That's just a thing. But nowadays, just gone off. Period. The end. I just thought it was a bad idea to do this National Stay Alive Day. That's just me. Just want to make sure. But anyway, let's just continue reading. Gordon said, "Well, Big Bird, it has to be this way because." Big Bird quieting says, "Quieting? Yeah, you have to run grammar on this one. But anyway, just because." And Big Bird says, "Just because." And Big Bird's like immersing his jaw. You know, I'm gonna miss you, Mr. Looper. And Big Maria's smiling as tears run from the corner of her eye, saying, "That's Hooper, Big Bird. Hooper." Exactly. And Big Bird as a cast around him. Right. Fade to black. When we finished the scene, there wasn't one of us was facing was shrieking with tears, Carol Spaney said. Joan Stone said let's do another take in just in case. But there was nothing wrong with that take. It was perfect. Currently, Combination cameraman Frankie Bonanno was left uncharged, treasury speechless. It was really, really sad and reality really touchy. He said, "For once, not kidding." The episode aired on Thanksgiving 1983, a year after Willie's final appearance in the Macy Thanksgiving Day Parade. It was scheduled on the holiday to allow maximum exposure to families at home. Wow. It was a landmark broadcast, Sesame Street's most novel in the Fenton Hour, and the bravia performance by Carol Spinney, who arrived as a studio for that day and tape and knowing its lines cold. Joan Stone, directing that day, could not have asked for more. Prompted by singer, Stone had called Spinney for the night before, just make sure the puppeteer was preparing. Wow. There was been a lot of time long before, but that Spinney had failed to arrive at the studio with some illustrations Stone had expected. Wow. I just got overwhelmed and busy, Spinney said. But Joan was furious, and he never forgave me. For that point forward, he in his eyes, I was reliable. Wow. Spade himself drew the canvas that Speedbird handed out to the cast members during the reception of Mr. Hooper's death In the final scene, Big Bird had the drawing he did for Mr. Hooper, now framed just above his nest on Sesame Street. The camera lingers on the drawing for the second before Louise came knocking the door to ask Big Bird if he wanted to see the Williams baby. Big Bird gets the last line chorus on the war. You know, the one thing is about new babies, the one day they're not here, the next day, here they are. By the way, Sesame Street came to us that day, sponsored by the letter J, as in Jeff, Jim, Joan, Joe, and John, and by the number 5. Those are 5 figurettes. They're actually the one thing about this episode, by the way. There was why is there some reason to say M or whatever? I don't know. That's just me. But anyway, there's 5 J's on there. But anyway, in the minds of Sesame Street's young viewers, puppets and people are interchangeable characters, coming and going in episodes past like highway markers. As Mr. Hooper's store faded to this distance, a new landmark has come into view. It was Elmo, the twice a proper Muppet. In 1985, Elmo was built by the bit player among the Muppets, just one of the backyard characters that the Henson's puppeteers refer as AM Muppets, anything Muppets for short. Short for anything Muppets, but anyway. Initially, they are like naked management wanted to wait to be dressed for the department store window, or Mr. Potato Head, for instance. Before the eyes, nose, and also appearance are added, whatever need arises for a one-time use character. Wow. Or a gag or anonymous puppets for a crowd theme. Hence, backstage Muppet Wangers reach into the trunk and grab AM's they're the Muppets requirement with the chorus line, and just as it can happen in Mystical Fear, their director spots for the prey phase. Sometimes anything Muppets are plucked from the pack. So it was with Elmo, who may have been stood out simply for being a resting shade of cherry lollipop red. Wow. Lost in the midst of time, which production member said just was right some for it. In fact, even though how Elmo came to be named is no longer known. But this much we do know. Puppeteers Brian Newell performed Elmo 3 or 4 times, using a sweet, whispery voice for the character. It did not stick. Yeah. And Libby, if you're watching this, she commented my post saying, did Elmo sound like that? And I said to him, yeah, he sound like that. And that's why I said in the comments. So it was Brian Newell at the time. But anyway, soon after, veterinarian with Swiss measuring group ensured Zanuck left the Muppets to pursue acting and writing. Wow. When he departed, his characters divided up. Marty Robinson got Telly. Barky the dog went to a young gymnast. Newcomer Kevin Clash got the Nobel Prize, and Richard Hunt unveiled entered Elmo. Hunt was who gravitated the more flamboyant. This is sad. Yeah. As I watched Being Elmo, the documentary on PBS, it was a sad look when I was watching it. And I saw it this year. I'm like, oh my god. Fragile characters and avoided cute ones took an inevitable dislike to Elmo. Richard loved opera and party. Clash said. And he often came in with a hangover. With an aching head, he would give away parts of the young puppeteers, literally throwing them to us. Richard saved his energy for the hipper, more established characters, and he just hated doing Elmo, and I agree with that. Next page. Norman Stiles, our head writer, would say in a discuss, what is Richard doing with that character? Legend had that Hunt into the Muppet green room one day, holding Elmo upside down by his rod, as were carrying a dead buzzard by his claw. I was only puppeteer bear, Clash recalled. Richard said, "You know that what? Have you got a voice for this?" With that Hunt sent Elmo flying across the room. This is sad. That flight are now like Lindbergh's learning for Clash, who had won nothing more from the age of 9 than to be featured performer for Jim Henson's Muppets. While other children were playing ball on the streets of his boyhood home of Turf Station, Maryland, an historic African American community south of Baltimore that they are sometimes called tourist stations, Clash was making puppets when remnants out of his mother's stewing basket. Like Henson, Clash fashioned one of his first characters from the line of the discarded woman's coat. There was just a first of many periods in the lives of two men who learned the rudiments of television production through puppetry. Wow. While working as teenagers for the local station in Baltimore, Washington coordinator, both demonstrated sketching or cartooning talent at an early age of fondness for Walt Disney Animation. Both were collectors of scraps and found objects, discards and junk that the recycled and refashioned into small whimsical creations. In both cases, wherever the scraps of their personality were hidden behind a veil of shyness and reverse exploited in performance even as children. Ken was one of the four children born George and Grace Clash. George himself, by nature a quiet man, but was a welder of the Reynolds Metals Company in the neighborhood Hayman. Grace was as a home child care center in their 2-bedroom, 1-bathhouse at 17 Pittsburgh Avenue. There was always children around who wasn't my brothers and sisters. Clash said with a laugh, "Kids was gratitude to my parents. Like his father, Kevin could draw and then illustrate with a common flair. I really didn't get interested in read until I was discovered TV Guide," he said. Chapter books at school seemed so long to me, and I agree with that. And I hated to get called on during read. But I really was interested in reading about celebrities and TV Guide, and I really enjoyed TV as a child. His favorite program was a CBS Children's Film Festival, the showcase of international films that was hosted by Coco Franoli and written by Johnstone Tom Whedon. I would never seen the top red balloon for the first time on that series and loving it. He said Sesame Street did not debut until Clash was 9. When anybody watched it along with his daycare kids at home. But many other boys will pass by on the screen and their younger siblings watch. Clash found Maria, I'm not going to say the S word, attractive. And like her being even more when she wasn't around with that David. Wow. Clash was 12 when he built a finger puppet named Mondi, who would resemble Mickey Mouse at the time. I wanted in some ways to go into the fantasy world becoming of my shyness, he said. When my mother would send me to buy bread, I saw a person walking toward me. I'd duck and find another way to get to the store. In early adolescence, way to pronounce it, he built a wisecracking puppet inspired by a school friend named Tony Bertie. But the puppet who took the name of Bertie as egg-shaped eggs, pantry holes, containers for eyes, and the wig that had belonged to Clash's grandmother. The more he made, the better he got, said Glaze, a local teachers and admin treasurer. Glaze took plenty of criticism from neighbors who were forever questioning why his teenage boy was staying indoors by singer sewing machine, while the other kids in the neighborhood were outplayed. My parents would never put a negative twist on my interest in puppets, Clash said. They never pursued me to go out and play sports if I chose not to. Peers teased me, but when I go into high school and I was doing variety shows and heckling them, it was completely different. George was paid little heed and was what everyone but his wife had to say, and she had plenty. The daycare mother was only too happy to have Kevin entertain the kids, not to that was anyone's business. Sometimes when they taught was soggy drawers, had to know other changes of clothes she shipped to the trousers of the puppet and onto the child. George built Kevin's first puppet stage and chartered his son around to Baltimore area performances. Kevin's first paid gig at 13 was at the neighborhood recreation hall. He earned $2.55. Wow. He gradually built a reputation as a graduate performer, but sometimes he gave away candy to ensure a full house. By age 16, when he was a sophomore at Dundee High School, he was being paid $20 for a half-hour performance in the church ball, social in the private home, for a birthday party, at $35 for a full-hour show. Wow. Kevin visited for a portion of the proceed towards a purchase of a hobby shops and fabric stores, combination storage containers for fur, felt, and foam rubber. In years before Baltimore's disclaimed rubber front was transformed by the shops and proceed pays for the urban makeover known as Harbor Place, Kevin was entertained on downstairs town streets using the area of handmade. Next page. Okay. Puppets lip sync to recordings and played on a portable tape machine. Mama and son Stonks would sing Henry Randy's "You and Me Against the World," spun to Earth, Wind, Fire, and have two puppets dancing and the bumper, and he bring up the fire character, the singer, Dave Boone's "You Light Up My Life," excuse me. Throughout Barty, whose skin was made from orange terry cloth, who bar with passerby, right by hair, he would ask before yanking off his wig. Here you can have it. Clash once told his hometown Morning newspaper, the Baltimore Sun, that Barty can tell people off, especially the cold dudes. He would get hurt won't get hurt either. He was one person think who can get away with it. Kevin Sakonis grew, and when he was in his 10th grade, appearing at the Donut Heritage Festival, inspired by Stu Kerr, Persegate television personality and weather forecaster in Baltimore, who had been host of local television children's show programs in the fields of cheaply produced studio shows like Dialing for Dollars, Conditional and Daily. Kerr and Bob Keeshan were friends. Wow. Dating back in the days together at the post-war pages of NBC television in New York. Keeshan was officially both booked here on Captain Kangaroo to play Scoop, a Sasha Bray newsman. At the time he met Cash, Kerr was developing Caboose, a new railroad-themed kids show. Wow. In which the host would pay a train conductor. He would invite Clash to come along to the rides. And over the next 2 years, the young puppeteer learned to perform on the job. Unknowingly, he would put in the same technique Henson developed at WRC in the 1950s. Wow. But when he began his roles in musical theater productions at predominantly would pronounce it, White Redunk High School, things changed. Class between baritone was developing around richness by age 16. During the winter of his junior year, he snagged the role of Sky Madison, the romantic lead in the spring musical staging of Guys and Dolls, in the 2006 movie, which I'll talk about some other time, on another book review series, which I'll talk about. But anyway, Clash recalled his sense of triumph in playing part of that Martin Brando in the 1955 film adaptation. I was well on air, Clash said. It was a dream role. There had some great acting scenes and performed show-stopping songs like Luck Be a Lady and My Time of Day. I was also especially pleased that Sky's love interest, Sarah, was going to be played by a girl who was a friend of mine. Vanessa and I were in the music and drama classes together, and she brought in the talented with a remarkable voice. The examination was short-lived thanks to a phone call Kevin received a few days after the cast list was posted outside high school's music room and rehearsals had begun. Dunk High School has strangely drawn its students' body with a watery blue color swept of southwestern Baltimore County. Racial tensions was also under the surface, and the cafeteria body that broken under the between whites and blacks, and the school made headlines in Baltimore in the 1970s. It may have had more to do with drugs than race. Clash, who was given a ride home that day by the school's drama teacher after the students were sent home at midday. On Father's Day 2006, Kevin Glaze and George Matt, Clash, sat around an outdoor patio table in the suburban Baltimore County. There was a family that values respect and tolerance, hard work and sordid laughter, and gratitude for every blessing. Bill Glaze has a framed photograph of Agnes Davis atop of the family's RCA's radio RCA TV set. She was hardly a black power mountain in the 60s. She was prideful, as well as her husband. As we raised the children to be comparable in the skin, to stand second to no one. That explains why sadness, and the cold residual anger still crosses their faces, when they recall what's happening with a handsome star with the household. The shy child who mustered his courage to perform with his puppets picked up a receiver on this day, 1976, on the line with Vanessa, the student chosen to play Sister Sarah, the Sylvan Army mystery with Upart Prairies with and Desiree Gammer's Sky and Guys and Dolls. After nervously stumble over small talk, clashes castmate lower the boom. You know, in the musical, you and I have to kiss. You can't do that. We can't do that. Vanessa's mother, coaxed in the background, permitted her to ask Kevin to step down from the role. Clash's heart sank in a bold attempt to undo a decision that wasn't hers to manage culture. What she was really saying was, you can't kiss in front of everyone in school because you were black and I was white. Grace, too, was listening nearby. When my mom heard "step down," she was up went off, pouring words in my ear. Clash said, I can barely take in everyone she was saying, but I knew that was a theory of her, and her was coming out. It was up to Kevin to clarify things. I told her I was not the one who with the problem she was, he said. Grace wanted Vanessa to put her mother on. The parent refused. I wanted to remind her this was not about love her daughter or Kevin coming for dinner like Sidney Poitier in that movie. This is about acting, she said. Kevin could have been asked to kiss a block of wood. But the situation was he was playing a part required that lead man and kiss the lead blade. Oh God. Vanessa was eventually gave up the part and taking the role of the chorus. Wow. Next page. We're almost there. Apologized months later. The role of Sarah was taken up by an African American student, a student who was already have a crush on Clash. She had no problem with the kiss scene, Clash said. And Grace Clash and stirred her with adults and the figure most promisingly in Clash's development, the performer. That was the third. Clash first came to know of Current Love after watching an episode of Call It Macaroni, a situated children's program that won a George Foster Peabody Award for Westinghouse broadcast in 1975. Narrated by children, the documentary, stupid bug, but anyway. The documentary series explored extraordinary applications, like that of love, costume designer, master maker. The Clash, the fully bearded Love seemed like a modern day wizard, and he was determined to meet him. Glaze, not wanting to be deserted, began calling the local station in Baltimore that aired the monthly show, asking for a contact name and number of Love. To no one's surprise, she was not only got the fruit for him, but convinced Love to meet with Kevin during an upcoming school trip to New York. He did, and the lifeguard bond was formed. Not long afterward, Kerr began to talk up to his young puppeteer to find to Bob Keesham, who saw the tape of Clash at the Children's Convention in New York. While still in high school, Clash took a meeting with the executives at Cap Kangaroo. He was kind of young, but was all genius right away. Keesham told Newsday in 1988, he was always a great puppeteer and actually as a incredible craftsman. Keishan sent two admirers to Baltimore and the best craftsman. Keishan sent two admirers to Baltimore to to um, investigate to 89 puppets Clash had built. Well, which were crammed onto plastic shelves in his parents' bedroom. The producer at Wire chose 5 puppets for the show. Clash began to make frequent appearances during the final 2 very seen seasons of Captain Kangaroo on CBS. Almost currently, the network scheduled at 6 a.m. allowing the show to river and die in the hour with it when its viewers were either barely awake or still asleep. In addition to during puppetry, Clash played a college student on Kangaroo. It was a worse costume, he said. Penny loafers and an allergy vest. It was pretty embarrassing, said Keishan. We would see how really difficult it was for him to get out for behind the puppets. How he hated to be on camera himself. What's magic about him is how he just becomes it so incredibly reverse when he was in real life. And when he was getting behind the puppet. With the puppet, he outgoing and funny as he can be, and outrageous. Without the puppet, he is just a nice, laid-back young man. Clash was determined to join the Muppets, and Love was just determined to help him. When a call went out for extras to work with Sesame Street for the 1979 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, he recommended Clash, the 19-year-old, arose in the middle of the night in Baltimore. To get into New York in time to perform Cookie Monster. Webbing the throngs along Broadway. At the parade, just for the late morning, he hopped on Sorbonne train back to Thanksgiving dinner in Maryland. Determined at having meet Jim Henson, however briefly. For a dizzying spell of time, Clash worked with 21 hours days in New York, juggling responsibility for Kangaroo, Love City Cage, children's show, Great Space Coaster. I will do Great Space Coaster in the morning. Then from 2 p.m. or like 6 p.m. I will do Captain. And then from 6 p.m. to midnight, I will do pre-recorded Space Coaster. And then from midnight to 6, I was building puppets for the Captain. And then I would have to go at 8:30 in the morning. Fortunately, I was young and healthy. It was right around the time, I was getting a call from the Jim Henson, Jim Frank, and Jerry were in London doing the Muppet Show. They needed puppeteers from Sesame Street. Clash said they had a special assignment in mind for the 6-foot, 180-pound, Judy built puppeteer, the hind end of Snuffleupagus. Rip, Jerry, Richard Hunt have done that job. It was just toward their backups. Clash said. It was my turn, I guess. Clash also performed an array of characters without much destination, we pronounce it, until Hunt Larry tossed Elmo into his arms. As Hunt walked away, Clash began experimenting with a flashmental voice he have used from time to time, but I really didn't like finding Elmo's soul until I took a trip home to Baltimore. Back to the kids and the mother's care. That's why I found his immature, his positive, and sweetness. Wow, this is awesome, but that's just me. Teen actress Austin Bartlett, now known as Austin Bartlett Valley, now known as Austin Bartlett. I don't even know where she is now, but anyway, auditioned for the one-day part of Sesame Street and nailed it. Despite herself, it was 1985. Now I was a student at the Garden High School with a bad attitude, she said. Almost didn't take an audition, and I said to my agent, "Thank you, but I'm not going to be hired on Sesame Street yet." But at that point, I was already typecast and a top kid. Julia Foster roles, and I have just played a girl who had been falling in the alley. Big knowness to Rob Alley. John Stone had been seeing her for 2 years before on Broadway, playing a teenage drifter in David Robe's Holy Brewery. Wow. My agent said, "We need to get someone on your resume under the roles you've been doing." And I very agreed to go, she recalled. Wow. Next page. A bunch of girls were there, and I didn't compare and despair thing, and sat around thinking why I'm here. And I was in jeans and t-shirt, and felt completely as far as I didn't fit in. Build walls and around myself to hide my insecurities and prejudgments. Then about 2 seconds from leaving, they called me in. Stone, Lisa, and Simon were there. This was Marty Robinson performing with Telly. Though there was a script, the investment was unapproved, and O'Reilly quickly got into the script and the Muppet in the play. Wow. John struck me in the ghetto Santa Claus. Wow. And I like him immediately, Barrett said. She got in the part, arrived in the studio, prepared for the play one project meeting on the roof of 123 Sesame Street. The script called for her to get directions to the pair of honkers. The brightly hued, slightly crazy creatures who were communicated only through trumpet-like prominence glowing out on the tops of their heads. Wow. Anyone in the studio but me was clued into Marty Robinson's and Kevin Clash were going to be put this kind of friendly illumination, she said. They told me while we were shooting, pulling my sack, hugging away in my ear, high-fiving each other. They were just trying to see how I could react. But I'm a New Yorker, but I've been through a lot worse harassment than that. Growing up in Brooklyn helped. Regina would become a recurring role. At first, she was a crazy, kooky, kind of tough, ignorant kid and questioning type who was hyper and a bit confused, she said. I was all over the place with her, nervous and jittery, but she had a spunky spark with her that they like. It was only after the actress was working with her on Sesame Street for a while that she would share this childhood memory with her castmates. When she was 4, Alyssa was in the big sister Holly should bundle up along Central Park West, watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. A whole movie shows her wide-eyed and shivery in a fur coat and muff. But it also shows fate stepping in. All of a sudden, you see the Sesame Street float coming into view in the movie. And then Will we and Norman Calloway hop off the float and come towards us and shake our heads. Wow, okay. Norman Calloway is becoming increasingly unreasonable way to pronounce it, around the time Rowley joined the cast. He was appealing in fewer scenes because of his ability to remember and deliver lines. All the sparkle that he had characterized his studio work in the 1970s had dulled. All of that talent has become buried and burnated. Wow. Dolly Singer had compassion for him and did what she could, but from the mid-80s on, Callaway, oh man, there may be tissue on the way, but anyway, Callaway was becoming less and less a part of Sesame Street. Little part came in 1987 production year when the storyline was developed for Maria and Luis, it could be when on the Sesame Street. First in the show, in real life, then 37-year-old Susan Mazzano had recently married, and the idea of 30-something Maria fall in love with Louise. A tender-hearted, empathetic man, she gotten to know with trust over time, appealing to producers and writers as TV relationships go. The match was more than plausible. But the news of development was the invasion of Callaway, who had so long playing David as Maria's boyfriend. He thought that if any character should marry Maria, oh God, but it should be his. It's sad. It was never a serious consideration. It was my idea to do a marriage, and I played it cautious. Singer said, "I thought it would be better to do it with Louise, but I didn't want to open up another kill with a fish. It was enough to get away on the show and have a family without opening ourselves up more difficulties. And I thought it would be a good, helpful thing to show a stable Latino family." Sad. Singer turned to Jeff Moss as to script the wedding episode and provide the words and music. The addition of the lead another of Sesame Street's finest hours. Once again, Joan Stone directed. Intense, Tenuous Moss turned the operatic cat that was romantic as revealing 7 mindless blenders of celebrity and song and spare dialogue that play out in the brownstone's rooftop deck. We saw it Scarlet Backdrop. It was separately revealed as that the backstories stories of Luis and Maria, back briefly introducing the bride's mother and groom's proud father. Sweden in the open air congressman among the other attendees were Gordon, Susan, Mr. Inatov, McIntosh, way you pronounce it, stage manager Chet O'Brien, Gina, David, Bert, Ernie, Two-Headed Monsters, the Count, Cookie Monster, Oscar, and the Summit Tzizo. Wow. Telly, Big Bird, who whispers, "You look beautiful." As Maria entered and off the shoulder right gown, with just a hint of a cleavage. Emphatic Price addressed the bride and groom and explained marriage's terms and simple enough for preschoolers to comprehend, yet adequate enough for adults to appreciate. When two people get married, when they do is make a promise to each other, he says, Luis and Maria are making a promise today. A promise to share their lives together. Lives together. A promise to help one another, care for each other, and to love each other for the rest of their lives. They're celebrating the promise in front of you, the people who love most, their friends, and their families. Next page, and we'll wrap it up with 2 more chapters in 2 more episodes. So there you go. Let's just read 1 more page and we'll wrap things up. Anyway. The service dissolves, and up in the intro, a siege of lyrics that much touch into the inner dialogue of the president. The becoming groom look at her. Is she wonderful? the bride with a lace of cold feet. It's another altogether possible. I made a major error. My hands are cold. My forehead's hot. It's either love or terror. The evil you jeer, little ringer beer. Don't drop the rings. Ammo, please. Ammo, don't drop the rings. The already heavy ex-boyfriend. Isn't it funny how I've seen her each day of my life. Now she's becoming Belize's new wife. I'm not used to thinking of her as anyone's wife. And I agree. I'm sorry sad for Norman at this point. The Whisper Bachelor and Best Man, Bob, turned the maid of honor, Linda. Sometimes I wonder how it would be married. If I want to be married, would it be someone like you? The longtime girlfriend, Linda, dreamily responded in sign language with a video pop balloon. Sometimes I wonder how you would be married. I wonder if you too. I wish I knew. Yeah. The newly appointed parents, Gordon and Susan, were junior attendant. Miles, look at him. Is he wonderful? Luis and Maria exchange bows and rings, and President concludes, I now pronounce you husband and wife. From the back row, Big Bird bursts out, yay, and Gina closes his beak to allow the bride and groom to kiss. Just as the Mr. Hooper Memorial has been writer Norman Stiles' masterpiece, the wedding episode was Jeff Moss. Together with the poles has been held up the canvas tent that was Sesame Street in the 80s, a reflection of someone silly, sometimes sad, always surprising, relentlessly spinning Cosaigo circus of life. So that was chapter 17. I'd like to thank you all for what I think about this chapter. It was amazing. We got a couple more chapters left in the episodes left to finish up the read, and we're gonna wrap things up. So anyways, guys, Devil Up for Book Reviews, episode number 18. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next one, which is going to be chapter 18 of the book called Street Gang. Till next time, so Jerry's goodbye. Peace out, baby. Get more videos, guys, very soon. Till then, Jefferson out. See ya.